Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to be doing a quick guide on how to get your leopard gecko to gain weight if your gecko is brand new or suffering from any health things or just being a really picky eater, which is very common with leopard geckos. So let's get right into today's video. I hope you guys enjoy. And yeah, so basically leopard geckos, as I just said, are very commonly picky eaters and can sometimes refuse food for different reasons. And if your gecko is refusing food for a long period of time, then you should definitely take them to the vet to get it checked out, because it could be due to parasites, which vets can easily do, well, exotic vets can easily do a quick check to see if they have any parasites for inexpensive cost. It could also be a lot of other issues, such as female leopard geckos do lay eggs and go through periods of laying eggs throughout the year, and so it might be because your gecko is trying to lay an egg and things like that. And male leopard geckos can also go through brumation from cold times of the year, which is common in lizards. So there are a lot of health related issues, but in general, if you're suffering from a picky eater, or if you just receive your leopard gecko from a rescue or a chain pet store where they were malnourished, it is really important to get their weight up and get them healthy. So here are some quick tips that can help your leopard gecko gain weight. This should be used supplementally till your gecko is to a healthier weight. And a healthier weight for leopard gecko is all about looks. Leopard geckos don't have a specific weight for a specific gender that they should be in necessarily. It's more about how they look, because some leopard geckos could be overweight at a healthy weight for another leopard gecko. So some things to look out for overweight geckos, I will be talking more in my next video in a couple weeks, which is going to be how to get your gecko to lose weight. But I'll be talking about signs of an underweight gecko in this video, and then in that video I'll be talking about signs of an overweight gecko, if that makes sense. But this will be a little bit of a series for you guys, which can hopefully help some new leopard gecko owners with the stresses of having a reptile for the first time, which I have went through. So let's get into signs of an underweight leopard gecko and then the fixes for that I have used for my personal leopard gecko, Toast. So yeah. So leopard geckos that are underweight are usually going to have a very visible skeletal structure, and their hip bones and head bones are going to be very visible. They'll also have a very skinny tail and midsection to waist section, and they'll also possibly just look very frail and things like that. There are a lot of images on the internet of Petco leopard geckos and just how skinny those ones are. But in general, leopard geckos sold at chain pet stores, especially bigger, chain pet stores in general, are usually babies, number one. So they're already going to be a lot smaller than maybe most leopard geckos you see online that might have prompted you to getting a leopard gecko. Remember to do your research, take your time, and remember leopard geckos live for upwards of 15 to 20 years. They are a commitment, and you should never get an animal without doing the research first. But besides all of that, leopard geckos sold at pet stores are going to look very small, and sometimes they might not be underweight, they just might be babies that need to slowly be weaned to obviously an adult leopard gecko, which is a completely different issue of just basic nutrition. But if your gecko is falling into the underweight categories, which I will put a good image here, and you can screenshot that, save that, and use that for reference to make sure your leopard gecko is okay. You can also get a kitchen scale and weigh your leopard gecko by the week, and just check how many grams they're weighing every week and monitor their weight. If it goes up or down, that is a good indicator of their overall health. It doesn't really matter what the numbers are specifically, but more of the fluctuations you're seeing. A leopard gecko that's young, that's growing, should be slowly gaining weight to a stable point, and a stable point is around this time period. I believe it's around 1 year or a little bit under 1 year when they're full grown, and then they should stay at a pretty constant weight. And obviously if you weigh them right after feeding them, before they've had time to digest and poop out the food, they are going to weigh more, versus if you weigh them the day after they go to the bathroom, before you feed them their next meal, they're going to weigh less. So those are basic obvious indicators, but weighing your gecko constantly and also handling them every single day, which is a good part of taming, which I have an entire taming video that you guys can go check out, is a really good way to make sure that they're healthy and that they don't have anything weird going on. The overall feeding instructions of leopard geckos, it's pretty complicated and a rigorous informational guide I will make one day, but there are other people who have made really good feeding guides. I believe I was going to make one. I might have made one. I don't think I did though, and I will definitely make one in the future. I'm just not ready for that yet because it's very complicated and a very complex topic that I want to cover properly so that you guys can just watch my video and get the best amount of knowledge possible, but you should always check out multiple videos. And I really recommend YouTube for researching before getting an animal because there are so many good channels that offer small animal care and just animal care. So I just had to do that real quick because I obviously am a small pet channel, but there are so many others that you can also go to and combine that information and notes and just be a better, more educated consumer and small animal or just animal owner in general. So I'm not going to be talking about like day-to-day feeding, but supplemental feeding as in treats to help your gecko gain weight are pretty simple. So here are what I use for my gecko occasionally as just overall treats, but when I was trying to get him to gain weight, I recommend feeding a little bit higher in fat foods, as in mealworms are pretty high in fat, and also even though dubia roaches are a high protein food, these are a really good staple food, obviously with other foods. Leopard geckos need all live insects. They're insectivores, except for one powder that I'll be talking about in this video that can help your gecko gain weight in emergencies, sickness, or just in an underweight case. But besides that, they need live insects and obviously a diverse amount of live insects, not just one or two, but like 3 different kinds. But some insects are best to be fed sparingly because they're high in fat and water content and not that healthy for them. But these are some of the best things that you can give them, along with a steady average diet as a little bit of an up in their overall fat intake to help them gain weight. And then there's also a few other supplements that you can try out, and just overall keeping them so they're eating and making sure that they're eating healthy meals as much as they should for their age will really help them gain weight healthily slowly. So these supplemental treats I'm talking about are things like waxworms or silkworms. Those are 2 different things, but I feed waxworms to my gecko. These are very unhealthy to geckos. They're like chips to them, but they're very high in fat, and then your gecko will almost 100% eat them because they kickstart eating for them. So I really recommend, if you're trying to get your gecko to eat because they aren't eating and that's why they're losing weight, to give them one of these, and then right after you give them one of these, try to give them a mealworm, which is similar to a pupa, like a waxworm. Silkworms I have never actually used for my gecko, so I don't have much experience with them. However, I have heard that they're around the same nutrition as a waxworm, so therefore they should be only fed sparingly, and you can really articulate your use of these treats when your gecko is underweight or not eating standard meals because they just won't eat when you try to get them to eat. I also would like to do a video on specifics for how you can get a gecko to eat if they're not eating, because there's different things that geckos pick up on that will make them more interested in the food you're offering. So if you guys want that video, comment down below because I would love to make that, because I've learned so much with my gecko toast that I would love to share some of my experiences with you guys before or for your first ever experience with a gecko. But besides that, waxworms are good. And then another food that I just tried toast on that is also high in calcium but also a fattier treat is hornworms. These really cool blue caterpillar looking worms. These are a little bit more expensive than waxworms and hard to come by, but they are on the same idea where once they're to a big enough size, not too big for your gecko, but in between their eyes is about the size of food you should be feeding your gecko. You don't want to feed them too big of food because they can't digest that properly. They could get impacted or regurgitate it. But hornworms are another treat you can try and feed. So those are really 2 good foods. Also, you can give them the pupas of mealworms, and those can act as a waxworm for your gecko. So let's just say you can't get waxworms or hornworms. You can use the pupa, which looks like this, of mealworms, and this is something that you'll get if you don't keep your mealworms in the refrigerator. And even though most pet stores recommend keeping them in a refrigerator, they do fine outside of the refrigerator. I've said this before, but I don't keep my mealworms in the refrigerator. And yes, they don't live forever, but they're so much more appealing to geckos in general because they're more active. If you keep them in the refrigerator, they won't pupate as quickly. but they do die quick, and they're also always like really slow moving. Even if you let them warm up or thaw like they say to do for like an hour, they're still out of it and groggy, and my gecko doesn't like his mealworms cold, and I honestly don't like working with them cold in my opinion. And I think that they last just as long as you need them to last for your gecko to eat the right amount of them outside of the refrigerator. And then you can also get them to pupate and just be healthier, and you can actually properly gut load them when they're not in the refrigerator because they actually eat. If you try to gut load them when they're out for their 1 hour thaw, they're not going to eat anything. So therefore, you're feeding less nutritional mealworms to your gecko, because gut loading is the act of feeding your insect feeders vegetables and fruits to get their overall nutrition level up, which they need that for them to be healthy for your gecko. So that's one tip that I always say. Keep your mealworms outside of the refrigerator. Obviously, anything else that they say that needs to be in the refrigerator, like waxworms, leave them in the refrigerator. It's for the best. But for like a staple food that could be like mealworms plus dubia roaches or something for you, I would recommend leaving them out of the refrigerator. At least try it. I recommend. Anyways, so you can use the pupas of mealworms and give them one of those, and then give them a mealworm right after, which will really help kickstart their eating more healthily. And then you can also try, when you first bring your gecko home, to give them just a little bit of vitamin supplement powder on your finger to kickstart their eating if they're really young, because that worked really well for my gecko who was really young, because he just needed some vitamins and that kind of made him hungry. But besides feeding live insect treats to help get the fat content of your gecko up so that they're a little bit more rotund, I have a few other tricks that I really like. So the only option in this entire video that isn't a live insect or just simply like a powder is this, which is a gel. Well, it's a powder now, but it turns into a gel. I haven't actually tried this yet, but I've seen a lot of good videos about this. I'm really excited to try this as a treat for Toast in a couple weeks. Very minimally will I give this to him, but this is good if your gecko is underweight to get their overall nutrition up, or if it's a female that's laying eggs and has lost a lot of weight. This is really good. Basically, it's called Rapashi Superfoods Grub Pie for reptiles and amphibians. It's an insectivore gel premix, meaning it's just a bunch of insects ground up with a few other things, and basically you mix this with water as it says on the instructions, and you put it into a mold or whatever you want, and at room temperature it will solidify to a gel, and then you can feed these little gel pieces to your gecko as a treat, which they should like, but obviously it depends on each gecko what they like. They're very picky animals, so they're not beginner pets, and I hope you know this by now. But I did get this really cute gel mold of dinosaurs from Walmart that I will be making this for him in. Not every single one of these, probably just one. And then he'll get a little piece, and we'll see if he likes it, and I'll definitely record his reaction for you guys, because he's never tried anything that wasn't a live insect, obviously, because he shouldn't have. But this is something you can also offer your gecko if you're worried about their overall weight, and you want them to gain weight. So that was today's video. I hope this helped you guys with all of my suggestions. There are probably more that I didn't think of, and if you have any other questions, make sure you comment them down below. I always answer your guys' comments. If you ask any questions, if you're confused or anything like that, it's very common to be confused or scared with your first gecko or first reptile in general, because for me, my first ever reptile was my leopard gecko Toast, and I still have him right now. He's only a year or so old, but I've learned so much in the time I got him to now. And I also have educated myself so much with the use of YouTube and just other pet care channels and things like that. And so I'm really happy to be able to create this information for you guys, which is kind of me taking a lot of different little videos and putting them into one major video for you guys. So I hope this helped. If any of you guys are having any issues with your leopard geckos, and I hope this helps them to get on track with their eating and overall weight. But I'm really excited to make a video on how to get your gecko to lose weight if you need to. So that will be coming soon. So stay tuned. Anyways, thank you so much for watching today's video. Make sure you like, comment down below, and subscribe. And yeah, guys, I'll see you guys next week, because I changed my posting schedule because I'm in school. Sorry guys. Thank you so much for being so supportive of any changes I had to make and just my overall channel. I'll see you guys next week. Bye guys.